Okay, Stefana, the recording's working, so if you can go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Len. Hi, everyone. It's Stefana Muller, your product manager for CA Service Virtualization. Today, I'm going to be going through what's new in 8.0.1 and 8.0.2 for CA Service Virtualization. Now, just to keep in mind, there's a lot of new things in these two releases. I'm going to actually focus on the DevTest portal and service virtualization specifically, so it will be a quick call. In any case, we do have the ability for you to ask questions in the Q&A panel at the bottom right. If anyone needs to speak on the call or has a question and wants to verbally speak, you can unmute your line, or Len will be able to give us those instructions on how to do so at the point where we take questions. I tried today to make it very simple, to just present to you some of the key things that I thought were really cool that we added in these latest releases. And I wanted to also focus less on PowerPoint and more on showing you the new features. So after this one slide, there's probably one more, and then we're going to go into the demo. Okay. So if we see here on this initial slide, I'm going to focus on these specific features. The 8.0.1 release came out in early February. 8.0.2 came out, I believe it was Friday, and we announced it on Monday. So many of you have not seen this feature, this release before, so this will all be new. In any case, the features I'll go through on 8.0.1, and I'm actually running 8.0.2, so you're going to see the latest and greatest. I'm going to run through the DevTest portal, some of the things we changed on the dashboard, the ability to store some preferences. All of this stuff you can actually try today if you go and download the new release. In addition to that, I'm going to show you where we added tooltips for newer users. And if you look at the new DevTest portal, there is a new area called Virtualize using RR pairs, is where we imported over what we used to call VSEasy from the server console over to the DevTest portal. So I'll share that with you and explain why we did that and where we're headed. Last but not least, we have the ability to delete nodes in conversational virtual services. We're just going to be adding, point releases as we go ahead and add additional features that our customers and you, our community, have voted on in the ideas area. On the right side of the screen is our 8.0.2 release, and I'll show you how to clear the service virtualization recorder, copy and paste specific transactions in a virtual service. I'm not going to go through the Swagger 2.0 create process, but I will do a recording on that later. I just don't have a sample for us today. However, I will record it and put it up on YouTube for you to see. And then I'll also dive into some of the really highly requested features in DevTest portal, like the ability to create new projects, view all your resources in one tab, and customize your preference, your portlet. Okay, so again, very lightweight content today. Not going to get into genome sequencing or anything like my last demos. So I hope you enjoy. And again, if you have questions, use the Q&A panel on the bottom right. And then I'll pause and answer questions as we go. Okay, so first thing is I'm going to share my browser in a second. Okay, so Len, if you could just confirm you see my browser window, or the person who's unmuted on the line.
Yes, Stefan, I can see it.
Okay, great, thank you. So guys, I just logged into the DevTest portal before starting this call, and I wanted to go through some of these new enhancements here. If you look at the top right, you can see there's my admin login, and that's what I logged in as. You can also see that if you click on the drop-down arrow, there's a new area called Preferences. So if you open up the Preferences, you could do a few things like change your language, and the new DevTest portal is now localized in French and Japanese. So I'll move it to French because I have that supported on my browser. As you can see, this is the first localization of a UI that we've done. So very cool for us, our team members who are using French-speaking or French operating systems or need the product in that language. And in addition to that, we have it in Japanese. So all you need to do is go to admin preferences, and you can change it to your language. I'm going to go back to English because that is my, my language, and I won't know what I'm clicking on. But as you can see, we also have a few other preferences that we've added. And I'm going to go back into there. You can select where you want your default project to be. You can enable your help bubbles here for first-time user. You can actually disable it too. So for those of you who are advanced in the product, I would imagine you'd want to disable this after seeing it once or twice. But for that new user, especially your new employees joining the team, trying to get up to speed on the product, the help bubbles are really cool. So let me share with you the help bubbles before I go into the next area. Actually, let's stop. Let's go and finish up this screen, and then I'll go into the help bubbles. So the other feature that was added in here, our development team added, is this enable edit mode. So if you go into edit mode of the portal, you're able to actually move around these windows. You can change them, move them. I can actually grab it and move it and drag it up, grab it, drag it down. You have the ability to configure it and change the name of them. So I might say this is Stefana's alert for tickets instead of new ticket alert. And there you go, I can change the name. I think that's kind of interesting, and not that I'm alluding to our futures here, but the point is that we're going to be modifying the screen continuously so that perhaps in the future you might be able to create your own small portlet or reporting area that populates this home page. Obviously that has been a request in the community as well, so I want that to happen. You have the ability to refresh each of these areas individually as you need, and you also have the ability to delete them. Well, since I don't have Pathfinder running right now, I might want to delete some of the alerts and remove them from my screen. The cool thing about this is you don't have to worry. You're not going to kill yourself and delete something that you're never going to be able to see again. You have the ability to reset to default, to go in and select the things you want to see and what you don't want to see. You also have the ability to revert, so undo your changes. And I'm going to save my changes so that you can see how it looks once I'm out of edit mode. As you can see, my name, Stefana's alerts for tickets, is still there, and I'm not going to accidentally drag and drop and move things around in this non-edit mode. Again, very lightweight feature, but it helps it become more of your portal into the DevTest toolset. And as we move forward, you'll see some more portlets available for reporting on the work that you are doing. Okay, so that's the main dashboard. You have the ability to resize, or rather move, delete, customize your names, add different things that are available today, save those user preferences. The next thing I wanted to show you is that help bubble, or what we could call tooltips that we've added to this portal as well. I'm going to show you by going through the create process. I'm going to create a virtual service through recording. And as you can see, as soon as I go in there to the create process, I have some help bubbles that have come up. You have the ability, obviously the point is to give people an understanding that there's some features here that they might not know about. If you click the list button, you're going to see a list of virtual services that have already been recorded or are in progress. It's important because not many people realize that was there. In any case, if you already know these features or knew that SSL, to enable SSL, you can check this box. You could actually close these, and you can say disable help. To remove all the help messages, click yes or no. So no would just disable that help bubble. Yes would disable everything, and it will be saved in your preferences like I showed you before. Again, the point of this, whomever's on the line, could you mute your line, please? The point of this is to make sure that users have the ability to get used to the new portal and see the features that may be slightly hidden to them initially, and then disable those features so that they don't have them in their face constantly. Okay, so I'm actually going to go through a quick recording. I'm going to call it hello. And I'll just do a Lisa Bank recording. I know my team is going, Stefano, why are you still using Lisa Bank? We've got new demo apps. Well, Lisa Bank just works on my laptop, so we're going to be demoing some new demo apps, a new demo app in the future. So I look forward for you to see that on the community as well. 17242 is my port, so I'm just going to change the port on my front-end system to point to this new back-end 17242. And I'll start the recording. So the reason why I'm starting this recording is I want you to see some of the help bubbles that come up as I go through the recording process. I'm going to actually log in here. I'm going to click OK, go into my checking, deposit some money. I wish it was this easy in real life. As you can see, as I went through that process, the click to view transactions help bubble came up, so it showed you that this transaction count is moving over, is increasing at least, or something happened here. I think that's really important because when I demo this, as you have seen before on our community, I point these things out, the changes. So a lot of the new users don't see these changes or know what's happening. So having that help bubble in the initial sense really does help get them up to speed. I'm going to actually finish the recording because we don't have to go through the whole step. I did want to, before I move forward to the next step, I wanted to show you in the advanced mode here, we have the ability for you to de-identify transactions. Now, you have to select that before you start recording. The point is, just so if you've been a Lisa customer for many years, this feature was called desensitize in the past. We renamed it because it's now an industry standard to be called de-identify, meaning de-identifying information that you may not want to be held in our VSI, like perhaps a social security number or account number or things like that. So de-identify is available to you now in the DevTest portal. It wasn't available in 8.0. And you can enable that by just clicking on the advanced mode button before you start your recording and clicking de-identify. Okay, so I'm going to shut off advanced mode because otherwise the screens get much bigger. I'm going to stop the recording. Actually, I believe I can de-identify now because I was in the recording process. And I'll go to the configure stage. Now, I wanted to mention this because a few people have mentioned that there's things that are wrapping below the screen. I too understand that, though you do need a lot of space here to see things properly. The next button is here, but you could also click on the configure button here up at the top so that you're processing through those 3 steps. Again, you know, just trying to make it simpler for newer users and even us who are trying to go through this very quickly to click through the record process. The next step is, if you scroll down here, you can see the update transaction view. A lot of folks didn't realize that they had to click on that button, so we edited tooltip. I also have the team working on a new design that will have this button a little bit higher up on the screen and pretty much show the customer that this is how you would apply the DPH that was selected. So the data protocol handler, for those of you who don't know the acronym DPH, is something that you would apply to the transactions you captured so that you can translate them into a readable format. This was automatically detected as web services, so I'm going to apply that. And as you can see, the data protocol was applied, and now these transactions are much more readable to me. And then I can see what was taken in. Okay. So again, save button is next, and save and deploy. I have myself in advanced mode right now, and this is something I don't often demo, so I wanted to share with you today. Advanced mode has been there for a few, since 8.0 actually, so it's not new in 8.0.1, And these features are still available to you if you need to select your virtual service model style, flexible or efficient, or change your default navigation. Just keep that in mind. Also, you can allow duplicate specifics or treat all your transactions as stateless if you'd like. Those are in the advanced mode. So I'm actually going to save and deploy just so that I have another item deployed in my VSE. Okay. And now you can see that another help bubble comes up. As soon as I'm now changing my view over to the left nav of where my new recording session was created. It's called Hello, if you remember. We just created that. It tells me, hey, guess what? You can right-click to delete, deploy, or download this MAR. So that was something that people didn't realize. The select menu in this web UI is activated to be able to right-click on so that you can see some additional properties or items. So you have some actions from here. I'm going to actually close that out. And remember, I'm keeping the help bubbles on for our demo today, but you can turn them off by just clicking yes on this button. I'm just going to turn off that single one so that we can see better here, and I'll open up the hello recording. So more help bubbles for you to kind of direct you through the process of what you're doing in this edit form. Now, editing got significantly more simple when we moved to this new DevTest portal. However, it's still a complex process, right? Because the point is you need to understand what you're seeing before you understand how to edit it. So we added these help bubbles to get customers' understanding of how to drag and drop items, that this is really active. This is a really active site. Someone has mentioned that my phone is cutting in and out. Are you guys able to hear me well now?
I'm hearing you okay, Stefana.
Okay, thank you. All right, move forward. You also have, remember I mentioned earlier, we have the ability, thank you, Mohammed, for confirming that it's now okay. You also have the ability to copy and paste. I'm going to actually close out this help bubble so that we can see the rest of the screen. And I'm going to select 2 of these items, copy them, and paste. As you can see, what happens is they get unique identifiers, and they also paste right above where you've selected. You have the ability to multi-select them and move them down if you'd like. We defaulted to go up the chain. Actually, I wasn't multi-selected there. Apologize for that. But yes, you do have the ability to multi-select and do that. In addition to that, you can copy and paste other things like your specifics. So I'm going to copy my specific, and then I'm going to paste it. Oops, paste. So there you go, a unique identifier selected so that if I want to and say I have multiple specifics and it's no longer just Stefana's TMF key, it's Mark, right? I'm just going to create Mark's name, and his password is going to be, 2345 instead of 1234. And now I have a new specific very quickly, and I can actually change the name of it to be Mark's login. Excuse me as my screen refreshes. There we go, Mark. There you go. Now you can see Mark's login, and then this is my old login here. Again, this is to make it much more simple for you to edit and move around the screen and do the things that you pretty much want to do in Workstation, but you didn't have all that functionality. In addition to this, we want the ability to be able to copy signatures and specifics from another virtual service. So now that you can see multiple virtual services open at the same time, you can see here my old kiosk V4 is here. I want the ability to, I'm going to turn off help bubbles now since we've got that down pretty bad, Pat. But you have the ability to copy and paste within this model or within this virtual service. I would probably see in the next release or so the ability for you to copy and paste within between two virtual services. I think that's quite valuable, especially if you're trying to mimic something that's already been recorded. Okay, so that's your tooltips, which I mentioned. You have that tooltips come up as you're navigating through the UI. I turn them off, and just to confirm that I turn them off, if you go over to my preferences, you can see that it says enable help for first-time user. It's unchecked, so I just said turn them off. Okay, I went through the ability for you to copy and paste its signatures and your specifics. I went through the right-click menu that a few folks mentioned that they didn't know existed, so I wanted to share that with you. And now I'm going to go through some of the additional functions that are added in 8.0.1 and 8.0.2. The first one I'll go through is clearing the SV recorder. Since we had that open before and you've seen that screen, let's go into the SV recorder. I'm going to start typing stuff in. And here we go. I'm going to go into the left, actually, and open up one of my recording sessions that I already finished. Then I can move forward into the process. But you have the ability to clear the transactions here. Say that I did not want to see the transaction list, or maybe that wasn't the ones I wanted to record, and I can start over again. Okay, let's move forward to the next one, which is the VSEasy port. Now, I know that there are a few of you on the phone going, did you enhance VSEasy? And I'm going to answer that for you. No, we did not significantly enhance VSEasy. Initially, it was on the DevTest console that you had the access to, let me just go log in again. You had access to a button here called VSEasy. We removed that button. It used to open up in an older screen in the server console. And we removed that feature from this server console, and we moved it over to the DevTest portal. So on the left navigation now, you have the ability to virtualize using RR pairs. And it's pretty much the same VSEasy screen that you saw before, but we just changed the name. You have the ability to select your VSE server should you have more than one. You enter your name. I'm going to say this is my demo 2. You could actually change or create a service group here. Right now, there's only one service group available, so it's only selecting the default, which is VSEasy. You select your protocol, and then I can actually drop files or click to add some files in here. I'm going to go into a specific area on my machine where I have my applications installed and go into this CA. Here we go. The latest release. Notice I have many releases installed on my computer. Right. Actually, it's not in bin. It's actually in the project folder in the data directory. Okay, and by the way, just a note for customers and those of you on a call wanting to demo this yourself. All of this, all of these samples are available to you on your machine as well after you install. So you'll have Bank V5 and Bank V6. You'll have the RR pairs under the data directory. You can go and try this out right after the call. You can actually try it out in 8.0.1, 8.0.2, and so on. So if you click open here, it's going to grab those files just like it did in VSEasy, and there's the one-click create and deploy. So it's uploading the files, it's creating the virtual service, and then it actually gives me the location of the virtual service. You can actually copy and paste this should you need it, so you can hit the specific virtual service. I think that's kind of alluding to the fact that we know that all of you want that endpoint to copy and paste, and we will be adding some functionality in future releases to make that much more simple and for you to reference that material. If we go into the DevTest console, you can see that demo 2 was created and that it's running and it's grouped as VSEasy, so you know that it came from the VSEasy area. And it also shows you 17.855 with support, and guess what? That's what it set up here, which is good news that it went to the right thing. Okay, so VSEasy or virtualized via RR pairs has been ported into the new portal. We are revamping this area to make it much more simple and work very similar to this 3-step record, configure, save, or capture, configure, save process. So I recommend you take a look at the later releases as we come out with them rapidly. Just a point for you to note, we'll be continuing the process of releasing dot releases over the next few months. So this is not the last one you're going to see. Okay, I'm going to now go through one other item that I think is quite big for a lot of the conversations we saw on the community, a lot of the questions we saw on the community once we introduced the DevTest portal. This is the ability for you to see all your resources and create projects within the DevTest portal. So one new screen that's here that I think is a long time coming. I wanted it in 8.0. I know we didn't have the time to get it in, but we just got it into 8.0.2, so I'm excited about this, and we'll definitely be iterating along the path of this All Resources tab. So if you're going into Manage on the left side of your screen, you have the ability to now click All Resources. And what's cool about it is that you can see all of your projects. You could see all of your resources, which we used to call artifacts, but I hate that name, so we changed it to resources. Thank you to the dev team for coming up with that name. You can see any grouping that's necessary or the type of file. You could also see, which is kind of cool, the description of the file. Why is that important? Well, because a lot of you, when you're creating files or creating virtual service, you might write something in, but now you want to go find that virtual service later, and you have thousands of files. So less navigation isn't going to be ideal for that, right? In addition to that, you might forget which project you saved it in. So the best thing about this new feature is that you have the ability to do a bunch of things like sort by a column, scroll through different pages. So it lists 10 per page by default, but I can actually list 50 so you can see everything. It does keep this page small. We're working on some ideas on how to move this bar down and things like that. That's why it's 10 per page. And if you look at the right side of the screen, you also, let me show you this. You could sort ascending, sort descending, hide the column if it's not valuable to you. And then last but not least, the big thing is the ability to filter those columns. There we go. I'm sorry, I kept clicking on it. Show filter. And the show filter is not showing. There we go. All right, well, that's what happens when you're doing a demo. The show filter is not showing for me, but if it were to show for me, I have the ability to see the filter come up at the bottom and filter through the list. I'm actually just going to restart the All Resources tab. This is what happens when you do a demo right after installing a beta release instead of the GA release. Yeah, the filters aren't coming up for me right now. We'll try to figure out why that is, and I'll post you guys an update of why the filters are not coming up. But in any case, you have the ability to show your filters, and that will allow you to sort through this list or filter through the list, and it will filter it down so you can find something within the name column or within the type column or the description column. Again, I think that's really valuable for you, those of you who have a lot of files to work with and don't know where you're looking for stuff. It will also very much help the team work together so that you can kind of put a little bit of documentation in each of your files. In addition to that on the screen, you have the ability to go right in and edit one of these items. Let's go and edit the HTTP virtual service. If I click on it, it opens up in another tab and opens up that file right away. Really easy for you to work through. And then you can delete it, and last but not least, you can deploy it or download the MAR. Each of the different items here, as you can see, this test suite, I'm actually going to go into the examples project and take a look at the test. You can see here with the test, you have different options. You have the option of run with options, or download the MAR. So that's different from what you would do with a virtual service, right? Okay. So I went through the All Resources tab, which I think was highly requested by all of you. And the last but not least is a very simple button of the ability to add a project. So I can now add a new project. I'm going to start it with the letter A so that it comes up at the top, and I'm going to say this was created as demo. Okay, now I have a description, I have a new project name, and if I refresh the screen, you will be able to see some of the latest. See, the new project was created, and because a new test suite is automatically created, you have the ability to see it in the list. I have a Okay, so the other things that we are working on now is for give you the ability to delete that project, to add an existing project to the screen. That is not in 8.0.1 or 8.0.2, but I do recommend, if you want to help us develop these new features or give us some feedback on them before they come out, to join our community and our DevTest customer validation team. And I'm going to share with you in a minute how to do that. Before I go into, where your resources are, what questions you may have, let's take a look at any of the questions that were in the Q&A panel. Oops, there's my Q&A panel. James is asking me to beautify XML in the pane to the right. So I'm assuming he's talking about James, I think you and I agree. So that means I believe you're talking about when we go into the DevTest portal and we're opening up a specific virtual service image. You want to beautify this response data. Is that correct? Can you chat with me on the chat window? Yes, okay, thank you, James. So the good point, I'm actually working with the team now on figuring out what we can do in this panel. We're using a third-party tool to render the information here and make it editable. There are a few pretty cool tools out there. One of them I've been promoting to my team, and they are actually working on this project now. I would imagine in the next minor release, you're going to see that implementation. For any area where we're going to be editing, you should be able to see highlighting of the text, formatting, automatic indenting, and maybe even code completion, right? Because that seems fair for, if we already know the format, you should be able to do some code completion or automatic code completion. So James, good point, and yes, that is definitely on the wish list, and more certainly in the very near future. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go down the list. Oh, guys, I do apologize. I missed showing you kiosk. So Omar mentioned, hey, Stefano, you didn't share kiosk. It's only showing the screen. Let me know in the chat window if you need me to go back through that recording to show you what I'm doing. The other question from Uttam was, can we use the portal for other transport protocols other than HTTP? Today, no. We're actually working on REST support. We're also working on TCP support, and you'll be seeing some additional things come up in the future. If you're interested, Utam, and anyone else who may be interested, we have implemented some MQ enhancements. They're not in the DevTest portal, but we've implemented them as experimental, and they're hidden in 8.0.2. We're going to be sharing that with a group of folks tomorrow that are part of our customer validation group. So if you want to join that group, you can join the call tomorrow and see how to unlock some of those MQ enhancements. I'll share with you guys the link at the end of this call so that you can join that call. So Raphael asked the question, does the all resources option show things like raw traffic files? Today it doesn't. Good point, Raphael. What we anticipate doing is that anything in that data directory that you see today within my file system, you will be able to select your those files or see those files in this list. That's why we have this area called grouping and type, because we're going to need those areas in order to add additional resource types into this list. So one new upgrade we saw in 8.0.2 was the ability to switch between functional and performance mode for VSE. What are the differences between these modes? Good question. That is something I did not demo, but there is an ability for users to change a property in the tool to change to performance mode if, in fact, you were licensed for performance mode. So just a note that there is the license today with Service Virtualization is you can get a power user, you can get the DevTest runtime user, which really uses this portal, and then you can get a performance user, which will allow you to do highly trafficked performance against a virtual service. This is something that you have to enable with an extra license, and once you enable it with a license, you have the instructions on how to enable the performance VSE. Okay. Okay. Yes, and Raphael points out a good point in the Q&A. He asked the question on about adding raw traffic files to this project list, or rather the all resources list. Good point. The point is that it keeps scrolling for me. Give me 1 second. I asked because CAI through the portal generates raw traffic files, not VSI, VSN. Yes, exactly the reason why we will be adding that to the list, Raphael. So you'll be able to see your generated raw traffic files and perhaps convert them to VSIs, VSMs, or specific artifacts. Okay. Well, guys, as I said, this call will be short. It was just trying to get as many of the quick updates out to you as we can. What we are planning on doing, and I want to share with you back down to my PowerPoint for a second. And give me 1 second. I'm going to go back to that. So now you should be back to the PowerPoint. I wanted to share with you this screen. There we go. So the follow-up. A few things that folks have asked me about. One is, how do I get documentation on the product? And if you haven't seen, I'm going to move out of the screen. I'm going to go back to my browser and show you that we now have a wiki published for our product line, including all of the DevTest solutions. That means SD, Test, and CAI. So if you go to wiki.ca.com/DTS, which stands for DevTest Solutions, you'll be able to see that. I'm going to go back to my browser and share that with you now so you can see how to navigate that site. Actually, this was the #1 question we had from customers, so that's why I'm taking some time today to show you this. #1 questions as feedback is, how do I get documentation? So wiki.ca.com/DTS is the site, and if you click on that, it's going to ask you to log in. This is the same login that you'd use on our community. So it's not that you have to be a licensed user to get access to this. It's just you need to log in just like you would on our community. So if you see here, my latest documentation showing is 8.0.1. If I want to change the version, I can change it to 8.0.2. As an administrator here, I have extra access, but you can fall back to 8.0. This came out in 8.0, this new wiki, so you're not going to see previous release documentation here. For that, you'd have to go back to our support.ca.com site. And I want to share this with you because a lot of you may not have your logins to support or don't know how to get access to content about the new release. But you can see here there's this release notes, and if I move to, I'm actually going to move to 8.0.2. It just takes a second to load, guys. So if I move to 8.0.2, my release information, there's a specific chart there that will help you understand the differences between 8.0, 8.0.1, and 8.0.2. And if you go in here, DevTest portal functionality, a few customers have asked this question on the community, so we published this chart here. Give it a second. I am working from a very slow connection here. I'm not in the office today. All right. You can load now, Wiki. I promise. It won't hurt. So as we're waiting for the Wiki to load, if anyone has any questions, please just do ask them in the Q&A panel. I'll go back there to see if there's any additional ones that I might have missed. Finally, it shows up. Okay, so here you go. The DevTest portal functionality is listed here, so you can see what was added to the DevTest portal and when in 8.0, in 8.0.1, and 8.0.2. As a note, Continuous Application Insight is all in the DevTest portal. In case you didn't know that, it was as of 8.0. So they added just additional features to CAI. They did not, they don't have a port going on between one UI and another. Apollo Kelly, who's our documentation owner, has mentioned to me, he wanted to mention that in the DevTest portal, you have links to this wiki documentation. You absolutely do. If you go to the home page here, you have links to the wiki here. Quick links to how to create, help, and so on, viewing the documentation and so on. Okay. All right, let me go back to my PowerPoint. There we go. Okay, so a few things. How do you download this version of the software? Go to support.ca.com, click download, click products, and then you should be able to search for Service Virtualization, Lisa, Application Test, or CAI. It is the same download. So just make sure you select 8.0.2 in the version area. I just want to mention to everyone, though it's listed multiple times under different names, it is the same install. The reason why it's listed in different names is that many of you have been around for a while and know these products as different names. So we wanted to list them all so you could select the one that's most relevant to you or most understandable to you. They do result in the same result every time. And what you would want to download when you get there is the specific installer for your operating system as well as the demo server, so you can kind of test out what I just tested out today and figure out the new features that are there. Communities, you all know where the communities are because otherwise you wouldn't have known about this call, but you can click on this link here in the deck or go back to the community after this call, ask questions about what we just presented today. Our community owners, Len and CJ, will be posting up the recording from today, so you'll have that there. And then last but not least, it's features. So I'm going to go, again, back to my browser so that you can see what the features are. I'm going to give you a hint into our customer validation area. Whoops, excuse me, give me 1 second, and I'll open that browser back up. Here we go. So customer validation is an area that only a few customers have access to. Actually, there's a large group at least that have access to. And what this does is allow you to be intertwined with our dev team as to understanding what's new and what's coming out and what may not be released yet and we're asking for feedback on. I really like some additional participation here because I know you all have some great feedback for us. And if we get that feedback before we go GA on a release, it's much easier to get it in, right? And obviously you're going to get what you need done. If you get to this link, which is the Lisa Validation Group, or now called DevTest Customer Validation Group, once you get here, if you have access already, that means you're part of this group. That means you signed the agreement and you're ready to go. If you don't have access, click the Request Access on the screen. You're going to see a screen that says you don't have access to this group. Click Request Access, and I'll email you instructions on how to sign our agreement. Key point here is we've already done some planning for the Airline release, which is the next few releases coming out. Some of the hidden enhancements in 8.0.2 are shared here. Some of the features we're considering, some of the voting on how the UI will look is all up here. We actually are working on a copybook UI that you could contribute to as well as some feedback. I really like to see more people join that program, especially since I know that you have some great ideas that we can productize right away. In any case, please join the program. We do have our first call tomorrow, and I'll share with you that recording as well if you missed the call. Okay. Any other questions? Let's take a look at the Q&A panel really quick. Again, lightweight call today. I appreciate you guys joining and learning some of the new quick tips about 8.0.1 and 8.0.2. I don't see any new questions in the Q&A panel, but remember, you can always ask me questions on the community after this call. Remember, the community is out here. You could just simply ask the question on the right side of the screen by clicking Actions Discussion or Ask a Question at the top. I hope to speak to you all soon. We're going to have a follow-up call every month, every second Tuesday for our community calls. So please keep an eye out on the upcoming events on the right side of your screen here in the community so you know when our call is scheduled next. It should be every second Tuesday. There's actually one other question that just came in, so let me answer that before we move over. I'm going to open the Q&A panel. Excuse me for blocking your screen. Someone asked to share the link to the M2 Enhancements meeting tomorrow. Again, if you'd like to join that call, take a look at the private community here. There's a link within there. I will try to reach out to you directly if you don't know how to get there. In addition to that, there was another question on whether or not the customer validation group is open to CA employees. Yes, it is open to CA employees, and what you need to do is to go into the site and request access, and then I will approve your access based on knowing who you are as an employee. If you're not an employee, which most of you on the phone are not, you can request access and sign a very quick online NDA to join the community. There is another question here. Is there a new certification based on 8.2? I don't believe we have a new certification. Liz, if you're on the call, Liz Resnick, if you're on the call and are able to chat some updates on certification or whatnot in the right panel, or the chat panel, please do, so that this question could be answered. So I believe we are coming back out with the new certification. Okay, soon, yes. Thank you, Liz, for confirming that. I didn't want to commit that to you, but there will be a new 8.x certification coming soon. I believe we also put out new training on 8.0 almost immediately after release of 8.0, so take a look at those as well. Okay. Well, everyone, I really do thank you for your time today. If you do have follow-up questions, remember I'm always in that community. I will take questions related to the thread of this call. So I will also update the team here on this phone call about the specific changes to the UI that I wasn't able to demo today. I might have to go back to my dev team and say, what's going on with my demo system? But once I get that sorted out, I'll post you guys an update so you can hear what happened. All right. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, Stefana.